we're going to do today, we're going to be showing you a couple of things that we've done to the truck after getting it. There's a few miscellaneous things that were not ideal when we bought it. Like with these, very common is the rear struts fail. So oddly enough, the struts actually failed literally when we opened the gate up to film this today. I knew they were going, but I didn't realize that fast. So it's convenient that we bought these for today. We're also going to be swapping the rear tail lights, the reverse lights to LED. So I'll be showing you guys that. And then we're also going to black out the rims today. So I don't remember, I think in our first intro video I had already done that, but I have some footage of me doing that from a little while ago. So one of the things that we usually do first is we basically do all the miscellaneous little things to kind of make sure everything's in tip-top condition and do a couple things to make it our own. So we're going to be showing you guys that today. Bright side, this is a lot easier than changing the struts on our van because, as you can see, this is only half the tailgate, where on our van we actually have to lift the entire gate and hold that. So it's pretty inconvenient. So this is a lot easier and is honestly going a lot faster than when I tried to do that.
Nice.
So that's freaking awesome. These were just off Amazon. Again, not ideal, but they were cheap and they got here in like 3 days. So that worked honestly perfect. So now we have a working rear tailgate. So that's super convenient. Now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna swap the reverse lights to LED. So you guys can keep following along if you like. Yeah.
Another Amazon purchase. So
again, these are another Amazon purchase. I've had very good, or very expensive taillights, and I've also had very cheap taillights. The thing that I have found is whenever I do LED bulbs, I just try and find the brightest one Amazon has, because they're always incredibly cheap and they're always very bright. Where I've had a lot of like high, good quality name brand ones, and I've had them just fail on me after just a little bit. So again, not the best way of going about it, but this seems to work well for us.
You're not the same?
No.
Oh no.
Shoot. So I'm realizing they sent us the wrong taillights. So that's kind of annoying. The adapters are off. Because this one they're uneven, this one they are even. So they didn't send us the right taillights. So that's a little bit annoying. So we can't actually do this today.
One of the things about buying from Amazon.
Yeah. So kind of annoying, but you live and you learn and you go from there.
We'll get these replaced eventually.
Yeah, eventually these will get replaced. Thankfully, they still work. Just one of them has burnt out. But now that we've taken this apart, I know how to do it, so it will be a lot faster next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like we have to order different taillights, and that's okay. Another thing that we're going to do today, especially because I can't do the taillights now, is with these older Land Cruisers, and to be quite frank, a lot of just older vehicles in general, one of the things that's annoying is the seatbelts get very frayed and very torn. But one of the things that I learned from one of the forums is apparently the third row seats, seatbelt matches up to the front row seats. So the third row seats, I don't even think they've ever been used, where these ones have obviously had some better days. So I'm going to swap those around today as well, just so that we can actually have some nice seatbelts for the front. So now what we're going to do, we're going to swap out the third row seatbelts with the front row seatbelts so we can have nicer seatbelts in the front. So I'm going to take this apart really quick and we'll kind of follow along with it. I learned this from a forum, so I'm hoping this works. I don't know if it actually will. To remove the rear mechanism, we have to pop the trim back. It's a 10mm bolt on the top and it is a 14mm on the bottom. So be careful not to break your trim, because it is very annoying when that all breaks. So try and do your best to not break it when you're taking things out.
Like the clips?
Like the clips. I may have just broken one already. So try and be as gentle as you can because, again, this plastic is very old. And usually all these clips are OEM, so they're also very old. And when they get old, they get very brittle because this has been through a lot of hot summers, cold winters. So it doesn't usually like to be fiddled with too much.
I've never seen a seatbelt before. Well, outside of where it's supposed to be.
It's a little different for sure.
Yeah.
Then after you're done, just pop the trim all back into place. So that way then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Some of the bolts will be a little bit finicky, especially these bottom ones, because these ones, they're having the most traffic over them. So sometimes they get a little bit rusty over the years, which is a little bit annoying. So I'm just gonna give that one a second, get the rest of them out, and then deal with that one. Because obviously the rest of these ones have come out super, super easy. This is actually the first van that I ever owned. Was a 1988 Toyota LE, and I actually did cut the seatbelts out of it. I still don't know why I did, but I did.
This is cool.
It was cool. It was a garbage vehicle. I got it for $500. I drove it from the Okanagan all the way down to California, through Arizona and back. It was actually the first car I owned when Vanessa and I started dating, and from the first time her and I hung out, she actually ripped the door off.
I'm just so strong.
So there's still a photo of that we can actually add in, which is kind of fun, from when we were like 20.
We're like awkward. Well, we still are.
So actually I have to use a breaker bar to get this bottom one off, because it's a little bit seized, but hopefully this won't snap it, but we'll see what happens. Still haven't snapped it.
I thought you did there.
I got it, and as you can see, it is very rusted. Whew, that was a huge pain. I'm thankful that that is out now. So I'm just gonna put the bolt partially back in, just so it helps keep water out. Sweet. So now we have the mechanism out. So now we can actually take this apart and get the seatbelt out of it. So now I just need to disengage the lock on it and then get the rest of it out. I have the third row seatbelt taken out, and now we're going to get the front row seatbelt out. So it's kind of a finicky situation because we don't want it to spool up in the roll like it did with this one, because we had to break that one. So ideally we don't want to break the front run. So it's going to be a little finicky. We're going to be trying to figure it out. So first thing you need to do though is remove the trim from the front side. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to zap strap around where the seatbelt is so it doesn't pull into the mechanism right away, and then we can start to undo everything to get everything out, just so it doesn't screw everything up right off the bat. So I have no idea if this will work, but I thought I'll try it. So we need to take the bottom bracket off first, then remove the trim so we have access to everything in the rear. So I will say as well, when doing this, you want to be incredibly careful, because if you mess up the retractor for the front seatbelt, it won't lock again when you do get in an accident or something. So realistically, this is something 100% for aesthetic. I would not recommend it if you don't know what you are doing. So then what I'm gonna do as well, I'm now gonna wrap this end in tape as it's fully retracted, just so it doesn't suck itself all the way back in, and then this way it will be a little bit easier for us for when we actually choose to put the seatbelt all back together again. And just like the rear, this one also uses 14 and 10 mil. So if you just keep those on hand, you can kind of figure it out. So be very careful not to lose any of these bolts, because it's very difficult to get them back once you drop them into a panel. Okay, so now that we have the full mechanism out, I'm going to actually slowly kind of attach the rear seat belt back in so we can see what order it's supposed to go into, and then we're going to attach this back into it just so we know that everything's falling into order the way it's supposed to be. So it's a little bit difficult, but what you need to do is you actually need to flip the seat belt inside the bracket so that it will actually fit into there properly. So I'm going to try and do that. It's going to be a little bit annoying, but we're going to get that all figured out.
Yeah, otherwise the buckle will be facing the wrong way.
Yeah, otherwise the buckle will be facing backwards, which again, not a huge issue, but you just want to make sure that will work. Another thing to confirm before you do all of this is confirm that your buckle actually does work with your front seats. Otherwise you're doing all this for nothing. I know on some of them the brackets do look slightly different, but from what I've heard they do still work. On ours are both the same, but on some of them there will be a little notch into the head here. So once you get this hook back in, you want to get the seatbelt removed out of this. I believe we filmed that. And then it's a little finicky because you really do not want to let this go, because if you let this go, you break your entire mechanism. So we haven't filmed me getting it through, but what I've basically done, I've jammed electrical tape into the mechanism so it won't spin. So that way I can remove it afterwards and then pull this through. So far we've pulled it back through. I'm just feeding the plastic bit back through so that it actually has something to hold on to. And then we will bolt that side back on, bolt this back in, and then we will allow the mechanism to fully spin. Just so that way we know everything's fully locked into place before we let go of everything. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have all the mechanisms back in place in the right order before we let go of anything, because I really don't want to have to do this all again. So just double checking everything, making sure everything is in the right place, and then we're gonna go for it. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna move the electrical tape out of the motor. I'm gonna just block this off with some tape up on this side, just so it doesn't spin through. And then that way I can rebolt everything back in, remove the tape, and then kind of see how everything goes. Okay, so just double checking that it will still freely spin. Slide that back into place, and now we're gonna start putting everything back together. So I'd recommend when you have all your panels off, you may as well dust everything off, get all the gross stuff out of there, because this is probably the first time this has been taken apart. Then you're gonna put the 10 mil bolt back in, then we need to put the trim back on, and then we're gonna put the rest of it back on, because everything needs to kind of go in its ascending order. So it's a little bit annoying, a little bit finicky, but that's okay, we're gonna make it work. And then, like I said before, with this, the bracket is gonna be opposite of what the original bracket is, so you're gonna wanna just flip this around to put this on. So that way then the seatbelt will actually line up properly, and then this will actually mount to the vehicle properly again as well. Okay. Now we're just tightening everything back into place. Then we'll remove the tape, confirm that everything is actually going to lock on properly. Okay, so now this is the moment of truth. I'm gonna wind the whole seatbelt back up. Cool. All right, that should work. So now we have brand new seatbelts in the front. It pulls, it retracts, it does everything that we need.
Yeah.
So it's quite a process. It's not a lot of fun, but it gets you new front seatbelts. So if that's something that you want to do, go for it.
We ended up not flipping the webbing in the buckle because it was way too hard. So it'll just be a little twisted.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is to bolt it up anyways, the mount needs to be twisted at the bottom.
Exactly.
So I don't think it really changes too much.
No.
So it's just one of those things that I'm willing to kind of put up with, and it's not really that big of a deal in the long run. Yeah, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the trim back on and we'll be good, but I'm gonna cut the tag off first just so it looks a little bit better for us. Take a little bit of finesse, but we're gonna get the trim back on, and then we swap the whole seatbelts around. Then once the trim is back over top, we'll tighten the final bolt, and then it is all good to go. So it's a little bit of a process. Again, I don't recommend this because if you do mess it up, you can compromise your seatbelt if you don't know what you're doing, so please do this at your own discretion. I don't recommend doing this.
We managed not to F it up, so.
Yeah, so I'm quite surprised I didn't break this myself. Thanks for watching, you guys. Have a great week.
Bye. Awesome, thanks for watching, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel to keep seeing updates as we are getting closer to our trip.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you guys later.
Bye.